Officials say 47 victims of the collapsed George building have now been linked to their families, while the search for 19 still trapped under the rubble continues. Emergency crews are on day 9 of the rescue and recovery mission. Specialized machines and equipment have been brought in to assist with the dig. Let's touch base with Newzroom Afrika Sipa Kema for the latest. Sipa, good morning to you. Again, the story has been, such an important one, both from an operational perspective. The investigations are going on, and also the families just trying to make sure that they are connected to their loved ones, for those whose loved ones remains they are waiting for. So just perhaps start for us from the human side of all of this in terms of what the families are saying and what they're experiencing. What have you found out?
Well, I mean, Ivan, if we're talking about the human element and the emotions behind what is happening currently here in George, I think there's no other better person than to share his experience and live to tell the tale than Devon Safers. I mean, we ran his story first here at Newzroom Afrika on that Tuesday morning, early morning, speaking to his father, Mr. Deon Safers. He's the one that was communicating with his family via cell phone, WhatsApp voice notes. And I remember, Devon, just after 2 a.m., your phone died, but your father kept hope, saying, no, it's just the battery. He is alive. And Tuesday evening, just before 7 o'clock, they managed to pull you out. I think let's first start with the experience of what you went through.
Honestly, I don't know what I went through that moment. I don't know what I felt that moment. I just wanted to survive because I had a son. And I couldn't see him grow up without a father. So I was just fighting for myself, fighting for my family, fighting for my son.
And when we were talking earlier on, we were talking about what you could see, with the first thing you did when that building collapsed, when you were trapped underneath.
The first thing I saw was darkness. Just darkness. I was looking for light, but there was no light. And I was trapped that moment. It took me about half an hour to get free, and then I took my phone, made some light. So I had some light, and I tried to communicate with people outside. I tried to phone people outside, but I didn't get through. I think I phoned about 50 to 100 times, and then I did get there was a ring, but it just rang and rang and rang. Nobody answered my phone call. And I just kept on there laying there, I think for a few hours or so, and then my mother called me. And there was hope. There was more hope, actually.
So if you could take us back, I know this is a really, a traumatic experience as well for you. I mean, you're still recovering as well from your injuries. But if you could take us back to that moment when the building collapsed, because you were conscious from the start, right till they pulled you out. Take us through that moment. What happened when the building collapsed?
I don't know what happened there, but I just remember we were just working there on top, and then in a second or so, the building was down. And I was looking around me, and I didn't see anything. It was just dark, 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 dark. So I don't know how that happened. I was like, how could this happen? I thought maybe only the one side collapsed. But while I was laying there, I thought maybe it's the whole building. And I just didn't know. I just didn't know how that happened. Yeah, I just didn't.
It was literally a second.
Virtually a second, yes.
And at that second, when you hit the ground hard?
Yeah, it felt like it, yeah. Because I remember I was bleeding all over my face. I had blood all over my head, all over my arms and stuff like that. My one arm was trapped, legs were trapped, so I thought, if I can't move now, I won't be able to move. But I made a plan. I made a plan with the light on, yeah.
And during the rescue missions, when people came in on the site to talk to you, I mean, did you hear everyone? Did you hear everything when they started to drill, when they started to call out names? Could you hear them?
At first, you could hear when they called, but it was difficult. I think on the Tuesday, actually, you could really hear people calling your name. But when I responded, they couldn't really hear me back. You understand? So it was difficult. By the time they were drilling on top of me, it was much clearer. We could speak to each other, yeah.
And now, I think another question here, Devon, was that I know you'd been working on the site. You live in Mossel Bay, and you came to work here just for work here in George. But how did you come across the construction site or the work? How were you employed?
Actually, I was employed by another company, Terrain Electrical. That's my company. So I was employed via them.
So it was outsourced, basically. You came through another construction company.
electrical company, yeah, but yeah, basically, yes.
Oh, okay. And obviously the question now being processes of names being taken in the register, because you know there's an issue with the numbers, how many people are on site, or the register was taken.
Yeah, that's another question, yeah. But from our side, we're only 5 people, so the other people, I can't account for them, but I know we were only 5 people on that side, yeah.
Oh, it was a separate company to the others, right?
Yeah, different companies, yes.
And how are you feeling now? How are you feeling now? How are you holding up?
Much better than before. I mean, I'm just taking it day by day. Every day I'm just getting better.
And you're getting, any support, social, psychological support, because, I mean, besides that being here, your colleagues that were here as well, your friends, that's who you came to check on today as well.
Basically, yes. Yeah, we have support. I have support, yeah. But I said if I must talk to somebody, I must just contact them. But currently, I'm fine. I'm doing good, yeah.
And since you were here today to see about your colleagues and your friends, the 5 that you're working with, have you heard any updates?
Unfortunately, yes. The 4 of us didn't make it. And that's a difficult pill to swallow, but much less difficult.
Are you the only one that made it from that group?
Yes, I was the only one. I don't know how, but I was the only one that made it, yes.
Thank you so much, Devon. Wishing you a speedy recovery. Thank you for talking to us and giving us the time. Thank you so much. That's Devon Safers there, Iman, giving us basically a breakdown of what happened on that day, on Monday, last week Monday, when the building came down, and what he went through and what kept him going, of course, and, the emotions. And you can tell that, he's still traumatized. He still has those emotions, probably going to be with him for a while, of course. And also seeing some of his injuries, his physical injuries there, the cuts on his arm, but mostly the one on his head as well. But he says he's doing well. He's back at it, which is why he's here today. He came to inquire about his colleagues, the 4 gentlemen that he was working with through that construction company. Now, talking about companies, just now I've just received a message coming in from Leotal, which is one of those contractors or the developers that were overseeing the work done on the site. And they've issued another statement that just came in now from one of the executives there. He says, if I could just quickly read it for you, Iman, the 6th of May 2024 has become a day synonymous with disaster, tragedy and broken hearts throughout our nation as a result of the building collapse at 75 Victoria Road in George. Leotal has expressed its sympathies with the families and the victims of this tragedy and has had resources deployed at the disaster site after the disaster occurred. Leotal has ensured that it had representatives at the disaster site to assist with the rescue efforts and unraveling the facts of what had caused the building collapse. So he says also, the most important part, saying that Mr. Kruger, on behalf of Leotal, has attended the offices of management disaster authorities as well as the Department of Labour, whom are working tirelessly to investigate the causes of the tragedy. There are not enough answers at this stage for all questions that surround this tragedy. The questions from the surviving victims, the families of all victims of the tragedy, and those involved with the investigations will be answered in the days, weeks, and months to follow. It is regrettable that the answers will take some time to address, as it is dependent on what the investigations reveal. So basically, that's what they're saying, and that they have availed themselves to all the authorities and the investigations that needs to be done. Now, Leotal is one of the companies that was involved or had a role in the construction, and what their role was here was overseeing the building and construction site, basically developers of the building and construction site who were overseeing what was happening on the site.
Wow. Really just emotional listening to you talk to Devon Safers there, and him realizing that his colleagues are no more. That's a difficult pill to swallow while in a recovery. And I think we saw some picture of him just behind you as you were talking to us, Sipa, leaving with members of his family. Can you imagine the immense relief they must be feeling, having him survive a tragedy of this magnitude? Just a final one before I let you go. You've mentioned one of the companies involved in this and where they stand today. playing that cooperation role with the investigating authorities. Just a quick one. Have they been to see the families at all? Have they connected with them still?
Not yet, Iman. We have not heard anything yet. But what they are doing is speaking to, of course, the authorities and the relevant departments that are investigating the matter. I think out of all the companies, or rather the major stakeholders in this construction site, they're the only ones that are communicating with authorities as well as the departments and assisting with the investigations. But they did say that Leotal is currently focused on processes as stated. It needs to a better understanding of what had occurred. They'd been engaged they say they have been engagement individually with families, which will continue. But when we spoke yesterday to one of the family members, they had said that the company was speaking to them through their lawyers, but they would have loved to address the company owners, Mr. Kruger and them, and Mr. Wilson, personally. But it seems as though the process is happening, and saying that they are engaging individually with the families.
All right, Sipa Kema, thank you very much for that latest. The latest coming there from the George building collapse.